In this tutorial in CyberLink ColorDirector, I'd like to introduce you to the layout, the screens, and the options as you begin to use the program. When it pops up for the first time, you'll have this splash screen that pops up in the middle. It gives you an option to open a project, download something from CyberLink Cloud, download media from the cloud, or import files. You can also watch an intro video. I did watch the video and I found it to be more of a promotion video than a helpful how-to video. So I would generally click this box here and say never show this again. It basically doesn't do anything I can't do in the major edit screen. But you can choose to do whatever you want. So for now I'm just going to close it. This is the main edit screen in CyberLink ColorDirector. Let me explain a few things we have here. We have 5 file menus in the upper left corner. We have an aspect ratio we can pick, 4:3, 16:9 vertical, or 360. And then we have a gear here where we can change some settings. I click on the gear, it gives me the preferences in ColorDirector. The other way I can get to the same screen is click on the Edit menu and choose Preferences, or hit the Alt-C key. Let's cover a few of them. The most important one of all of them, and there aren't many really that make a big difference, is the frame rate. In America, you can choose between the 24 and the other one would be 30 frames per second. Other places in the world, you might want the PAL or the NTSC standard. But that's important for your project. I generally don't mess with the auto delete. That works fine for me. You can check for software updates. If you don't want the nag screen, you can uncheck this. I don't see anything else that I change generally in this first screen. Director Zone, that just lets you sign in automatically when you load the program. And then there's this option for gathering information. I tend to turn it off for me. And I tend not to sign in. You have color. This is to apply what's called a LUT, L-U-T, color lookup table. And we'll get into that later. We can do hardware acceleration. And then in production, you can reduce these artifacts if you're optimized with this Intel processor. I'm not sure exactly what that does. I'll click that on for now. If you have an AMD, obviously that would not apply. Then I have a screen about the cloud. It tells you how to get there and how you can back up to the cloud. There's a fee for that. So basically the only one I really focus on is, do I want it to nag me about this? Do I want it to monitor some of the work I do? And what's my frame rate? But the big one's a frame rate. So that's what I would set on this one. And you'll change this from project to project. So I'll go ahead and close that window. Now let me describe a few other things. In the upper left corner, we have a window where we bring in the video that we want to edit in color. And so I cannot right-click on here like I could in PowerDirector. I have to check one of these 3 buttons here. I can download or import a single file by clicking here. I can import a folder full of files, of video files, or I can get something from the cloud. So we'll just pick the single one for now, and we'll import this option here. And once you have a file in here, you can display it in one of 2 ways. You can display it in thumbnail view, or you can click down here and you can display it in text view. Those are your 2 options. And you cannot resize the thumbnail when you get here. If you press delete, it will not delete it from your system. It will simply remove the clip from the library. You can also, if you have multiple files in here, sort. You can sort them alphabetically. You can sort them from the largest to the smallest, or smallest to the largest, or you can sort them from the newest to the oldest, or oldest to the newest. So those are just different ways of sorting the files. And when you click on a file, it will give you the key information. This happens to be an MP4, and I see it's 1920 by 1080, and we're running roughly 24 frames per second at a 16:9 ratio. So that's my information when I click on the library button. The second button is called my adjustment button. Now when I click on this, I get an error message. It says you must add it to the storyboard before you can do any adjusting. I'll click on OK. What's that mean? Well, I have the storyboard view here, and until I have a clip in this storyboard, and I can drag it and drop it in, I cannot begin to do any color work with it. I can play it in the window above, but I can't do any editing on it. And so what I'm going to do then is just take it, drag it, and drop it down into the storyboard part. Now, when I click on this button here, I can do some adjusting with it. Let's go to this window before we think of that one. Once I have something in my storyboard view, I can make this go away by clicking on this other option here, which just gives me the more space to see my particular image. And I can do a cut by clicking here. I can trim it, and this is a non-destructive trim where I can make it shorter if I want. We can deal with that later. That's the same as in PowerDirector. The other option I have here is I can decide what kind of scenes are in here, and I can let PowerDirector actually split this into scenes for me. We're not going to activate that particular tool right now, but that's a scene detector. I can remove it from my project. I can also, if I click on this button, I can change to actual full screen for my entire screen. And I can click here to mirror it. If I click over here, it mirrored it on my other monitor. I have a 2-monitor setup. The default here is none, so that's a 2-monitor setup. Then there's several ways in which I can view the image. Show one is a default. The other, and you have 4 options here. I can look at the entire picture with a before and after. It's the complete video. Or I can do a split before and after, left and right, where one side of the video I see before the colorization, the other side after. And I can do the same thing with up and down, top and bottom. One is 2 complete images, the other is an image that's split. So that's what those are all about. Then I can change the size of the image in the box here. It's at 50% now. I can click Fit, and it will be larger. And I can go back to my single view here. So those are the views that you have, and you can pick whichever one works best for you. If you want to go back and see your slideshow options down here, to add more, this is the button you click on. So a couple more we'd like to show you. When you get in the adjustment mode, you have 2 options on the left side. You can do manual adjustment, where you can adjust using keyframes every single frame of your project, or you can do kind of the generic, you can do presets. You get presets in ColorDirector, a handful of them. And this obviously gives you many, many more to pick from if you want some that are just automatically set, and you don't have to tweak it. We'll get into both of these a lot more in future lessons. So that's the basic look around, the journey and the geography, if you will, of ColorDirector as we begin to think about using the program. We'll get into some of the how-tos in the next lesson.